welcome to the Knowing Show. I am your host, Christene Marie. Y'all, I am so happy to be here with you tonight. I'm excited for this conversation. I recently created a link. Actually, my team did. They put together a form so that folks can submit questions to be discussed on the Knowing Show. And tonight we're actually discussing one such question, which I'm so excited to be discussing. Y'all, we've been, over the last couple of weeks, we've really been cultivating a little community here. It's been really, really fun. It's been fun getting to know you. It's been fun getting to, I guess, honestly, I would say experience life with you. We've all been chatting on a regular basis. And so for those of you who are new here, I really, really welcome you because I think that we're in the middle of building something really special. On the Knowing Show, we talk about how to be healthy and intelligent. And when I say intelligent, I really actually quite so mean that. There's so many different intelligences lying within us. There's intellectual intelligence, the most famous and important one, so many say, the IQ. And we've been cultivating that since we were kids, from going to school, kindergarten, learning how to read, how to write, ABCs. We've been learning IQ. We've been cultivating this since we were children. And the next intelligence, which is becoming more popular, is emotional intelligence. Really being aware of what's going on inside of us and being able to put words around it, being able to talk about it in a way that's actually data driven. Like, this is what's going on inside me. I know that this is happening because in the past this has happened and I understand it now, and I can decipher what's happening. So the first half of emotional intelligence is to become aware of, then understand, and then be able to convey one's emotions. And then on the other side of that is the ability to be empathetic and have wisdom in relationships. So we cultivate intellectual intelligence, we cultivate emotional intelligence. The other two are they're fun because we don't really talk about them. The third one is physical intelligence. And y'all, our bodies keep the score. That's the title of a book by the man who coined the term post-traumatic stress disorder. For so many years, veterans were being thrown in mental hospitals because people didn't know how to engage with them. And so understanding what's going on in our body and how our body is physically reacting to the data that it has stored from the past is huge. And as we slowly start to understand the data, we then can learn how to master our bodies, and knowing how what we eat impacts our body, and knowing what environment is really good for us and what environment is triggering for us. All of that constitutes physical intelligence. And then the fourth intelligence is spiritual intelligence. And we talk about this primarily in our morning show and on Sundays, where we dive into A Course in Miracles and move through a daily lesson every morning. And then on Sundays, given that it's Sunday, and kind of a lot of religious tradition honors Sunday as kind of a religious day. So we talk about spiritual intelligence. The biggest difference between spiritual intelligence and religion is that spiritual intelligence is derived from within. We're not looking up and out. We are going inward, and we are seeking the wisdom that comes from our Creator. And so with the cultivation of our spiritual intelligence, physical intelligence, emotional intelligence, and intellectual intelligence, our whole being is activated. It's online, it's present, it's ready to engage, and it's ready to give us data. I think of it as like all of our intelligence are coming into the boardroom, and we sit down with all of our intelligences online activated, and we're like, hey, what's up, everybody? What do you have to tell me? And then we learn from it. We're taught from within. And that is the Latin root of intuition, is intuere, to be taught from within. And the more each one of our intelligences are turned on, the more we're able to be taught from within and learn like these secrets that have been hidden and lying within us for many of us decades. And when we finally start tuning into them, man, there's a lot that it has to say. I just wrapped up this afternoon. I did part 1 of a Knowing Intensive, which I sat with a couple. One is 65 and one is 59, a husband and wife. And we dove deep into what their vision is for the next 3 years, and who are they, and how has the past shown up in the present, and how does that actually prevent or project on the future and their vision, their ability to vision for it. And we chatted for about 3 to 4 hours, and I'm going back again tomorrow and again on Monday. And we're going deep. And it felt like such an honor, this couple, 65 years old, 59 years old, and they're both so committed to each other, to growing, to their own cultivation. And y'all, it is so easy to stay stuck in old patterns. And while we were talking, the husband was like, "Whoa, I didn't know you thought that," so many times to the wife. And the wife was saying, "I actually need to take time to process what you're saying, because you're saying things that I've heard before, but you're saying them in a different way." And so effectively, our conversation this afternoon was all about, can we and are we willing to be able to open ourselves up enough, feel safe enough with our own self, and then with somebody else, to hear the truth, to go inward and hear what's going on outside, and then go inward and really seek to change. And it really is installing new programs, installing new systems. But first, you have to identify the old ones, understand how they show up in the present, and then seek to undo them. If we just went in and kind of were like, "Oh, we just want to change everything," it's probably not going to last, because we have to do away with the old. But first, we have to know what the existing program is, why it's there to begin with, and then we can start to uproot it. I think of it as James Allen wrote the book As a Man Thinketh, and effectively he likens our minds as to gardens. And each one of our thoughts, each one of our inner narratives, each program has deep roots. And if we were to just pull that old program out without understanding the root of it, well, one, we're not even going to get the root if we don't try to find the root. But then if we were to pull it out and not replace it with something new, it's kind of all of a sudden, what, we're just neutral beings. It's either going to be life giving or life depleting. So if that old program is life depleting, then something is naturally going to take its place. And then the question is, am I the one intentionally planting something new? Or is just another subconscious narrative or subconscious program going to take its place? Or worse still, am I just going to look outward and look for someone else to tell me what to think, how to live? And y'all, it's actually sometimes easier to do that. It's easier to outsource truth or our experience or our new program, rather than sit with the discomfort of not knowing. It is, I heard that someone say this quote 2 years ago, and it shook me. He was like, people would rather choose the misery of certainty rather than risk not knowing. So effectively, I would rather, that's how people stay in abusive marriages or abusive relationships, is I know the certainty, I'm certain about the misery I'm about to have. And I'd rather choose that than switch up my life and experience something I don't know, because that's risky. It's uncertain. So people would rather choose the certainty of misery. And that, to me, shows us almost like the natural default of the human condition. And so if we're not intentional to go and put ourselves in new environments that challenge us to go and think beyond the norm and think beyond where we are today, each one of us is in a default, each one of us is in an autopilot. And so the question is, are we intentionally putting ourselves in rooms and in conversations where we're being challenged and we're being fashioned to think different and thus be different? And so I am going to take a pause here and just say hello to everyone in the chat. I just saw, first, I'm live in a couple different places. Cafricole Troll. I am checking out the chat now. I'm sorry for not seeing all of this sooner. Christopher Adams, I'm so glad you're here. Good to see you. Jackie L, Six Cylinder Legend. Moha, good to see you. Elijah, good evening. Good to see you. No dash Z6U. Y'all, we are talking tonight about how to know if we're on the right track in life. Brian put this question in earlier, so I'm really excited to answer this and talk about this with you all tonight. Janice, good to see you. Diego, Colfing, Arne, y'all, this topic, how do we know if we're on the right path, is probably one of the most important things that we can discuss. Jose, it's like they're comfortable being complacent. It's all connected, isn't it? Are we willing to put ourselves in a new environment? Are we willing to actually, like this question, how do I know if I'm on the right path, is effectively predicated on the assumption that we're willing to move into uncertainty. Because then the thing is that if we're not on the right path, we have to then be willing to adjust it and move towards the unknown and move towards the direction of, I don't even know if I'm on the right path. I don't know if the next step is the right one, but I'm willing to examine it and ask the hard questions of, am I even headed in the right direction? So what I want to think about tonight is, first, in order to know if we're heading in the right direction, is we have to have clarity about what the direction in terms of our target is. What's our target? Where are we trying to go? Where, oh, I love this comment. It's me, I'm you. I've never been happier than taking my life back after divorce. It was scary at first, but so much scarier to think about what my life would be like if I stayed. Man, what a thank you so much for sharing that. Y'all, isn't that so true? What's the cost? Because there's a cost of sitting on our laurels and there's a cost of seeking change. Either way, there's a cost. And you said it so brilliantly. It was so much scarier to think of my what my life would have been like if I had stayed. I've been talking with my friend about this a lot. We are the authors of our lives in so many ways. I was thinking about it the other day. It's like God, and this is what I'm kind of brainstorming. So you probably will have a different opinion, and I'd love to know in the chat. It's like God created us. God created the room that we're in. God created the book, created the pen. And then from what I've experienced, it's almost like then he's like, okay, create create your life. And he created me, he created the book, he created the pen, he created the people I'm around, he created the environment. So he's clearly involved. Yet so much of my decisions are the very things that write the story. And I have felt this to be so true because my husband at the time, 4 years ago now, he had the choice to stay. He had the choice to leave, and he chose to leave, and that was his choice. And so every single one of us has a moment in time, and I'm sure you felt this, where every single one of us can decide, am I going to go to the right or to the left? It's that crossroads moment. What am I going to do? And the direction, which is so hard because we're like, am I going the right way? Which is what we're talking about, how to know if we're going in the right direction. But if we don't have an idea and a crystallized end goal of who I want to be and how do I want to live my life, and ideally, what do I feel called to? Sometimes we figure out what we're called to as we move towards a direction, but it's like, okay, this, I know at least who I want to be in terms of starting values. Like, I want to be someone honorable. I want to be someone who tells the truth. I want to be someone who people can rely on. I want to be someone who's emotionally intelligent. So, okay, let me start with that. Now, that's my a friend of mine, he was a coach for Lance Armstrong, and he and I did a coaching session, and he was like, you need to identify your GPS, your goal starting position. And so, okay, our goal position starting, like, what's my starting line? And so until we identify from where am I starting, and until we identify who do I want to be along the journey, that at least can inform the next right step. So if we're at the crossroads, okay, well, let me get really, really clear on where I'm starting. What's the baggage I'm carrying? What's the pain and hurt that I've got with me? What are my skill sets? What are my superpowers? We asked that in the chat a couple nights ago of like, what are your superpowers? And it was really cool to hear people answer because people had some really, really amazing things to say in terms of where they shine and where they not only where do they shine, but where do they also help other people shine by way of their own superpower. So it was really cool conversation. Um, but to that point, if I don't know where I'm starting from, all the baggage, everything in the past, how that's going to impact me here in the present moment and come with me on my journey unless I deal with it, and if I don't have clarity around who do I want to be along the journey, along the way, man, it's going to be so much harder for me to then know which direction to take and which direction to go. So I'd love to hear if you guys are up for sharing in the chat here. I'd love to hear, who do you want to be on the journey? Because that is such an incredibly important part. And sometimes it's just the starting values. Like when I first started out on my journey of coming to know who I am, I had no idea where I wanted to end up. I didn't know what I was called to. I felt like a broken mess at the time. And so, what I did have at least a semblance of a foundation was like, okay, well, this is how I view God right now. That's probably going to change, and that's always going to be changing. But okay, I do have faith that God is there. God is real. I believe God loves me. All right. That's in the spiritual intelligence bucket. Emotionally intelligent bucket, I had like nothing. I was starting out effectively with zero. Like that, I just had no idea who was inside. Okay, check. Intellectually intelligent. All right, I had a business. Cool. I have a source of income. Y'all, that's actually really, really important in this question of how do I know if I'm going in the right direction? That's a really important bucket to check. And then the next bucket of physical intelligence, am I actually physically healthy? Because y'all, the more I'm in rooms with some really high performers, the more I realize how much they're like, y'all, yes, I've got all the money, but I am not well. I need to physically be fit to be able to enjoy the money I make. So, our order of hierarchy in terms of priority is so important to then again inform the direction. So, do we even know what our priorities are in our life in terms of where and how I need to grow? So, when I started out on my journey, I'm standing looking at all these multiple crossroads. I had to get clear on where I'm starting. What am I bringing with me from the past on my journey? Where am I strong in terms of each intelligence? And then what are my unique skill sets? What are my superpowers? What do I have to give? Because in every single relationship, there is a give and take. We're taking from people in some ways, and we're always giving in some ways. It's very rare that we're never doing one, if not both, in relationship. And so that's part of just being aware, relationally aware. And so, to all of these points of how to know if you're on the right track, each one of these is like effectively a part of our GPS, our starting line. Okay, now that we know these things, now the gunshot fires and now we can start going. And as I started moving, honestly, I would start going down one path and sometimes I would have to take a deviation. But the thing with deviations, as we move forward, are we actually continuing to build our reservoir of what we know about ourselves? Are we continuing to deepen that? Are we actually cultivating the health of where we're weak? Because there is, to be honest, I've found at times when we can pause and actually truly take a time out in terms of like, yes, I'm going to sustain my business, but like, I'm just going to hunker down and exist in the wilderness. That's what I did for about 4 months. I just stayed at my house. I kind of tuned out my friends and family, and I just said, I really need to heal. And it was just a really, really devastating time. But during that time, I really focused on the emotional intelligence piece because I just had to know, like, how did my life end up here? And y'all, it's really important that we ask those questions. How in the dickens am I where I am right now? How is it that I can be in this place when I've worked so hard and done everything possible to get myself out of it? And so I don't know if, if you guys can relate to that, but man, it's a really, really hard place to be when you feel like you've given everything and then you end up flat and you end up just completely broken at the end of the day after giving it your all. So I don't know if anyone else can relate to being broken. Um, but man, when you're at that point, it's really, really challenging. So um, I love that. C. Martin Love says prioritizing solitude. Ooh, prioritizing solitude, spirituality, and living authentically according to your own values rather than others' expectations. I'm so glad you said others' expectations because one of the things that I was just musing over for tonight, one of those was like, okay, what are the KPIs in business? That means key performance indicators. And every single business has KPIs. Y'all, we should have KPIs for ourselves. What are the indicators that mark that we're healthy, that we're well? And so some of I wrote down 3 KPIs for how to know effectively when we're on the right track. And one of those emotionally. So with those buckets of intelligence, so we've got intellectual intelligence, physical intelligence, and emotional intelligence. There's a bucket for each one of those. One, the emotional intelligence indicator. So emotions, our soul indicator regarding our emotions is, are we in a state of peace or are we suffering from any of the three? And I think of it as kind of the 3 Ps: people pleasing, performance, or pressure. And if we're feeling any one of those or acting in accordance to any one of those 3 Ps, usually that's a sign that we're actually not on the right track or that our why is out of alignment. And so when we can get really clear on, oh, why am I making this decision? Is it in alignment with who I want to be? Am I making this choice predicated in who do I want to be and or where I want to go? Because again, when I started my journey, I didn't know where I wanted to go yet, but I at least knew a semblance of who I wanted to be and how I needed to grow. And so, again, knowing those key things of where I'm starting from is so important, because then as we move forward, that indicator of peace as a core indicator that I'm on the right track. And then, so that's for the soul, that's for the emotion. And then, two, when it comes to our physical state, our intellectual state, one of the indicators is clarity. Do I actually feel like mental fog? And usually, when I'm in a state of like internal mental chaos, that's a sign for me that I need to slow all the way down, to take a step back and say, am I actually on the right track? Because if I am, I should be feeling relatively clear about where I'm going, because I'm moving with intention rather than living on default or autopilot. So clarity is another one of those really good KPIs on the IQ side that we can kind of take in stock. And then finally, I love this one. So hope. Hope is another KPI. Y'all, discouragement and depression, anxiety, each one of those, it's almost like a poison that can really, really come in and like disrupt our spirit and disrupt our progress, the progress that we're making, and really kind of just dismantle us from the inside out. It can like eat away at ourselves. And when we start moving into discouragement or despair, we start losing out on remembering even what's true and why we're doing this in the first place. So when we get clear, again, clarity, that's the IQ, that's the IQ KPI. We have clarity about where we're going and why we're going there. And then that why, man, that is a propelling agent. It's like gas in the tank that keeps us moving forward and keeps us remembering, oh, yeah, that's why. That's why I'm moving towards this destination. And even if I may be on the wrong course, I'm doing it for the right reason. And y'all, when we're doing something for the right reason, it's like everything changes. It's like everything gets brighter. And I don't know about y'all, but I feel like hope is that. I think that this is a quote from *Shawshank Redemption, and I've never seen the movie, but I've heard people say this quote before. Hope is the best of things. And I just love that concept. It really is so true. I'm just checking here in the chat. Hello, friends. Sam Davis Sear. Why did he leave? I think you're talking about my former husband. He said, I don't love you, I don't love God, and I don't love your family. So those were his 3 reasons for leaving. So there wasn't much I could do to make him stay. I think that, we both got married so young. I was 20, he was 23, and we were both the only people we'd ever been with. And so I think the grass is greener on the other side in so many ways. So, he said, if I lose God to come and find him, and then if he finds God, he would come and find me. So I don't know. Who can say? But anyways, checking back in the chat. Hello from Saudi Arabia. Man, I would love to go there one day. Call things so nice to meet you. I'm from Nepal. Oh wow. I am from I'm just outside of DC in Gaithersburg, Maryland. Elijah, that's brutal, isn't it? That's the truth. AJ, I so appreciate that. I'm so grateful. I feel like my last 4 years, it's like, honestly, it's really that analogy of a caterpillar to butterfly, dude. The caterpillar, and I didn't know this, the caterpillar has to go, when it goes into the cocoon, it completely dissolves. It comes down to nothing. It's like, I don't know. It's completely dead of what it once was. And then it emerges as this beautiful thing. But man, the excruciating process, it's like we forget sometimes what needs to occur for new life and for the rebirth, for the phoenix to rise. And man, I hope I'll be a phoenix. And I hope all of us, that's the thing, every single one of us gets to be our own version of that transformation of the caterpillar to the butterfly. It's just, I think, the question at the end of the day of, am I willing to endure the pain? Am I willing to move through the process of whatever needs to die? Will I let it die? And will I allow for the death, for the purpose of rebirth, for the purpose of new life, for the purpose of all of that dead wood falling off so that gold can emerge? There's this there's this process, I guess you could say, um, that is talked about in terms of like going into the fire and all the dross burns away. And then, as a result of the dross burning away, gold emerges. Well, that process of going through the fire is so painful. But man, if we're willing to withstand the discomfort of uncertainty, withstand the discomfort of death. I mean, it really is. Yeah, Elijah, you said I'm in that dissolving stage right now. It's hard. It is so hard. It's so painful to move through the death that needs to occur. Um, Zilad, I'm going to slow down. Thank you for saying that. He said it's hard for me to understand because I'm my English. I'm speaking so fast. So thank you. I'm going to slow down a little bit. Um, Oh, I love this. It's me. I'm in you, or I'm you. Well, luckily, your thoughts about God don't dictate his love and guidance. Isn't that so true? I love that you just said that. Y'all, that is one thing that I'm just so grateful for is that our worth is not contingent on what others think about us, what we think about ourselves, and it's just always in this beautiful perfected state of always worthy, always loved, always accepted, always true, always precious, always cherished, always honored. And that had to be probably one of the most important lessons for me was to reorient my gaze from looking to the right and to the left and looking to everybody else to tell me who I am, where I should go, am I worthy? And instead orienting it to the ultimate capital T truth of what does God say that I am? See, Martin Love, oh, I'm so broken inside that just hurts about everything. Oh, that just about everything hurts. My heart, my mind, and my soul is crushed to bits and pieces, and I will never put it back together. Oh, see, Martin Love, what happened? Oh, maybe I missed your post earlier. I'm so sorry. I'd love to hear what happened. I'm so sorry if I missed your first note about that. I hate you're on here so often, and I hate that I didn't know. Oh, but I would love to hear what happened. Um, I feel like we're friends, and I want to know. Um, and okay, I'm just looking up through some of these chats. Um, We all go through trials, and this is from AJ Alberto. We all go through trials and tribulations. There are peaks and valleys, and you just have to ride the waves. Sometimes you have to divert faith and let things flow. Oh man, the peaks and the valleys. And here's the thing it's so interesting. If you have to have a valley to have a peak, if it was all peaks, and it wouldn't be a peak, there'd be nothing to peak. And so it's such a good point, that there has to be the valley to juxtapose and thus allow for it to be a peak and shine and stand up, for the mountaintop to exist. There has to be even just a normal plane. One of the things that I've talked about while I was doing one-to-one coaching with somebody a little bit ago, we were talking about making sure that effectively our baseline. So, what I mean by that is like, think of, okay, so here's the mountaintop, and then we've got the valley. Well, then what's the baseline? Here's kind of like the level ground. Well, I want my level ground to look a certain way so that my peak is so high, but then I want to have my valleys be controlled in terms of my internal state. I cannot at all control the external world. I cannot at all control what's going to happen to me in my life, but what I can have some semblance of control over is my reaction. Actually, I have most, if not all, control over that. And that's something that Viktor Frankl talks about in his book Man's Search for Meaning, is we basically have all power over our choice, whereas that is the greatest of all human freedoms, is the ability to choose. And so I love that concept of like, no matter what happens externally, we can always control our response. Just looking back here to the chat, as one individual noted, difficult times eventually pass, often leaving behind new perspectives and wisdom. That's so good. Kermit, can you shout out to Tom Peters? I don't know who Tom Peters is, but hello, Tom. Lendl Jr. Guess what, Lendl Jr.? You called out our friend, the 90s nostalgia girl, and we decided that on Wednesday next week, we're going to do a fun night. So, for everybody watching, on Wednesday this upcoming week, we are going to do a fun night because of Lendl Jr. There's this girl who just like hangs out and did trivia with all these people. And I was like, man, I love to have fun. Why not actually have fun? Because these conversations are so important for our growth, but I like to have fun. So we're going to have fun on Wednesday. So what date is that? Oh, the 11th. No, that is the 11th. Ooh, I had a networking event that night. I'll figure it out. The 11th. Let's plan. Tell me, guys, in the chat if you would. 9 p.m. Eastern on the 11th. Does that work for everybody? On the 11th, 9 p.m. Eastern. I want to play games. I feel very excited about this. Again, what you think about God's aim in life for others doesn't dictate anyone's reality, only your own. I love that. What you think about God's aim in our life doesn't dictate anyone else's reality but your own. It is wild, y'all, what we think about, and we talk about this in the morning Course in Miracles show. There really is something about what we think about so often is what we end up projecting in our lives, and it's dangerous. Like, pay attention to what you're projecting and what you're thinking about, because we do end up really seeing that kind of play out. So what are you thinking about? What do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about God? Because at the end of the day, that's usually what we'll end up experiencing. Good boy, Adam. Glad you're here. C. Martin Love. So we fix our eyes not on, I love this. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary and what is unseen is eternal. And just to drive that point home, C. Martin Love, someone said this one time, and I was like, that is the most simple and brilliant statement. He was like, when you cut somebody open, you don't find them, you find their organs. And so what is unseen is eternal. You and I, our soul, like, where is my soul? I don't know. But it's so cool because the more that we cultivate these things, we're doing real work on something that I hope and anticipate will outlast us. So I just love that you brought that up. Just looking through the chat here. James Alva, so glad you're back. Hello. Y'all, Janish says, what good business, are you asking what's a good business for you? I'd love to know what you like to do. I have a branding and marketing business, and I also have a family business for the trades, and I have a little bit more there. See, Martin Love, while I breathe, I hope. Once you choose hope, anything's possible. Hope never abandons you. You abandon it. Ooh, to plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow. Man, you have so many beautiful phrases. I still don't know, when you said that you feel so hurt, it makes me so sad. I'd love to know how you're doing and what happened, but I also don't want you to feel like you have to put that out there publicly. Albert, thank you. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Isaiah, we have been talking about how to live a life of intention. And so we've just been talking about how do we know when we're on the right track? What are effectively good warning signs for us? Ronald, safe and secure from all alarms. Albert Martinez, no, I'm not. Elijah, thanks for joining. Good to see you. Make sure you come on Wednesday. We're going to do a game night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Diamond or electricals? I don't know anything about the diamond market, but I would say and electricals, I don't know if you're talking about the trades, but I think the trades are hot right now, especially with AI coming in. There is a lot of money going into the trades. There's a lot of tension actually on the trades. So get in now before everybody's on that bandwagon. But I would 100% invest there in terms of if you're wondering kind of where to go. Akarash, death. You're right. Yes, they're not. I dare. Thank you for joining. This chat is really, well, this channel is all about coming to know who we are, who were we created to be, so that honestly we can live a life that we're really, really proud of and leave a legacy that, man, someone asked me, actually, Brian asked me the other day, how do you define success? And I've been thinking about that, and how I define success is, am I living a life that I'm proud of? Am I living a life where I can look back and really hold my head up high and be confident over the decisions I've made, over the people I loved, over the work that I did, how I applied myself? That's the goal of this channel. Are we actually on the right path? Are we really making decisions that allow for us to grow and move towards something of value, move towards, y'all, are we advancing in our lives? I think that that's actually a really good question. Are we moving towards something? Or are we sitting on accolades? Are we sitting on success? Are we sitting on all the nice things that are said about us? Are we sitting in the comfort of what's known and what's familiar? Or are we allowing ourselves to change? When I went through the first kind of couple, probably 6 months of after my husband moved out, and I just, every morning, I would actually kind of dread mornings. When you're in a season like that, you're like hoping it's not real. But then after I called that kind of like my time in the wilderness, those 6 months. And then I was like, I'm going to start traveling. And I traveled for about 3 years. I kind of lived nomadic. I would travel for speaking engagements. I would travel for networking. I went to Bitcoin Miami 22 to figure out what Bitcoin was all about. And I just like stayed for weeks at these different places. I went to Berlin and spoke there. And then I went to Prague for a couple of weeks, and it was just so fun, but it was also so uncomfortable. I had never traveled by myself. I had been out of the country, but not a lot. And so I would walk into these conferences, not know a single person. I'd get on a plane. I would have so many new environments. Whenever we pick ourselves up out of an environment and put ourselves somewhere new, we're kind of forced to examine ourselves in a whole new way. And you're like, wait, why did I just do that? Why did I make that decision? Why did I think that thought about myself? Why did I think that thought about them? What does that say to me about me? And so these questions are really, really important. And in so doing, we get to know ourselves in such a deeper way. And because it was so uncomfortable for me, it really taught me a lot about me. But what's funny is that over time, I actually started to become really comfortable with what once was uncomfortable. So now, as I'm looking at my life and I'm looking at the direction and my destination of where I want to go, I'm like, okay, what's the next step? What's the next layer of discomfort to get me to the next level? And now I'm like, I think I actually need to stop traveling. I actually need to stop moving around. And it's more uncomfortable for me now to stay in one place than to be constantly traveling. Like I kind of learned that, and it's no longer uncomfortable. So in the discomfort lies growth. In the discomfort lies the cultivation of what's necessary to get to that next level in our lives. Um, William says, do you have, oh, good question. Do you have feelings and emotions that control you? Yeah. A narrative that I still have to really face. And this is, I think, probably like my deepest core wound. So here it is. I'll air out all my laundry. My deepest wound is that I'm not wanted. I'm one of 6 kids, and I was, like, right there awkwardly in the middle, and, man, I love my family, I really, really do, and I grew up with just, like, a kind of a loneliness that I actually think positioned me to jump on the first person who said that they wanted to marry me, and I was 20 years old, and I had never dated anybody else, and, um, and so I think that core wound of not being wanted is still something that, like, and it controls me in a really, when I recognize it, in just recognizing it, that's why the very first part of emotional intelligence is to be aware of. Be aware of, then we understand, then we convey the emotions that we feel. And so once I can just the second I become aware of it, already I've taken power back over it. But that narrative really, really can can be it's kind of like right there. It's like you see in the animated films where it's like the little angel on the right and then the little devil on the left or vice versa. And it's like that's the voice of that little devil being like, nobody really loves you. Nobody really wants you. They want everybody else but you. You're last, all those little things. And so the more I can call it out and be aware of it, the more it has less control over me. Um, and actually, I'm wondering, like, do you guys know what controls you? Um, I feel like I'm so glad you asked that question. That's such a good question. Um, just looking through here. Life is an ironic tragedy. It only makes sense in reverse perspective. Christopher Adams. Oh my gosh, yes. What a good point. And yet, it's kind of funny. It's like I actually wonder, is tragedy a perspective? Could we shift the perspective on that? Like, could it be that it's a wonderful adventure and that in the not knowing of it allows for it to be the adventure that it is? Tell me what you think. um, all right. And I'm going to have to go soon. My back hurts. I don't know why. So I like need to get up and stretch. Wow. Oh, Johnny. I started reading your note and I was like, "Oh my gosh," and then thank you. That was so funny. Um, uh, Robert Gonzalez, thank you for coming. Um, hmm. Idar, thank you for asking. It really is meaningful when people actually engage. I want that. I want to hear from you guys. And I'm sorry I don't always keep up with chats. I actually save the chats and I read them later. So Isaiah Anthony, what do you do for a living? I do a couple of different things. I have a marketing business for entrepreneurs who have their own businesses. So I really help them get to know who they are and then put their brand out there in a way that really helps them to be differentiated because they're thoroughly unique, but sometimes we have a hard time reflecting on ourselves well enough to then project that outward. And then I really help organizations have empathy driven marketing, so it's like person to person rather than just a whole bunch of salesy messages, because I hate that. And then I also have my family has a trades business and I'm involved there. It's a painting business started in 1922, which is crazy. And then I also, knowing, there's a lot of different manifestations of knowing. We do a retreat, we do one-to-one. I like to think of it as kind of caretaking. And so we'll just kind of walk through, what are people struggling with or what do they want to heal from? I really believe, and this is kind of an unpopular opinion because otherwise this takes away the need for therapy, but I actually really believe each one of us has the power to heal ourselves. I think we each have the ability to heal on our own. But sometimes it's just a matter of being able to take the time. It's time staking and also knowing what questions to ask and like how to like having somebody to help you go through that. But then once you kind of have the know-how, like you're free. You don't really need anybody else. So I'll help with people kind of get started on that right track, but ultimately it's learning how to do it for yourself. So yeah, that's what I do for a living. Um, Jason Jason Anderson. She says she needs to date an introvert for sure. Um, I will say that my darling is bigger than I am, and I'm so grateful for that because I used to be told I was too loud, too big, too much. And I'm very grateful to be in a relationship where I am free. So, but you know what's funny? My former husband said I needed a B type. So the irony of what you said. um, Okay, catching up now. Um, Ronald Self. I love Dr. Jesus. I love that. Um, Carly, thanks for joining. Elijah, you're still here. Yay. How does payment work in a family business? Like, are you salaried? Do you get bonuses, etc.? That's such a good question. So the way that we actually do it, oh, oops, hold on. I'm saving the chat because I don't want to have it deleted. The way that we do it is that my dad hires my company, and then we do branding and marketing. And then frankly, I'm going to be taking over the family business in a couple of years whenever my dad's kind of ready to retire. So I'm actually not taking payment outside of paying for my team and what they're doing. So my hope, frankly, is that I'll really be able to position the business and get it to the point where we can get it to the next level, so that when I take over, we've already got a really firm foundation. Um, oh, Ronald Self, go to YouTube and watch this blind and autistic young man named Christopher Duffley open the eyes of thy heart, Lord. That sounds like a nice channel. I like that. Most of the questions have many answers, Christine. I feel you plan to be busy to distract your thoughts. Your eyes show pain. You may have people that want to and be oblivious to the signs. AJ Alberto. I think that there's something that's really, you said, distract your thoughts. It's funny, the morning times are my time that are really, really sacred. The morning is, I actually think, probably the most important time for all of us. But some people love the evenings. I love the morning because it's so, so quiet. So for those who are night owls, it's kind of the exact same thing. But for me, the morning is really that sacred time. And it's precisely the time to dig into the thoughts that are painful and the thoughts that show us what still needs to be healed. So to your point, you're absolutely right. We actually need to intentionally go back to those moments of pain and be like, oh, am I being healed? Am I doing the work? Am I actually growing? Am I strengthening and really becoming who I want to be? So I'm glad that you brought that up. Oh, see, Martin Love, man, everything you say. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. Is that Emily Dickinson? Is that her name? I think I bought her book of poems. And I think she says that. I love that. Just checking in on the chat. All right, y'all, I think I need to go. I don't know what I did to my back, but it's been hurting me. Rich, I do not have plans for tonight. Well, yes, I do have plans. I'm going to go to bed. I need to go to bed. But y'all, thank you so much for, thank you all so much for joining. We're going to be going live again tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern. We'll be going live. We're going to move through A Course in Miracles. And then tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m., we'll be coming back online for The Knowing Show. So have such a wonderful night. Thank you all so much for joining, and I will see you tomorrow.